opportunity to ask. And yes, we are recording this. If anybody had any questions, such that way, if somebody doesn't have the opportunity to join today, they can get to know Billy and Wendy by watching the video at a later time. But the plan is for us to have this once a month over the course of the coming months and do this through November and have representatives from the staff. And we'll just, going to enjoy this and have some fun, ask some questions. And the intent is get to know them. And then after about 15 minutes, I'm going to turn it over to Wendy and let her play a little tune. And then we'll flip back over to questions, then go back to Wendy. So it's not only getting to know them, but also the opportunity to hear some music through the course of this as well. But as you're sitting there and you're listening to this discussion, if you have some thoughts or things that you might be interested in knowing or a question that you want to ask, please type that into the chat. And I've got Stephanie and Kristen who are monitoring it there. And I'll be looking at my phone. So they'll text me questions that we want to add as we go through the day. So I think that's for the most part kind of what the plan was. Or is there anything else we need to cover, Stephanie or Kristen, before we get started? Seeing shaking head, so I take that as a good sign to get going forward. Perfect. So that being said, Billy, I say we start with you in the context of, just how did you find your way to Grace Avenue? I'm sure you've told that story thousands of times, but if you can kind of give a brief overview of kind of how you found your way here, I think it'd be good for some of us.
Yeah, my family, my story about how I found my way to Grace Avenue is really pretty simple. The bishop told me to come here 22 years ago, actually in the fall of 1998. There was discussion. I was on staff at St. Andrew in Plano, and the thought was that we were going to need something out in Frisco. And so discussions began, and really it happened with just the bishop and a district superintendent who said, "We think you would do a good job. We'd love to send you and Laura out to Frisco." So we came to Frisco, and that's how we got here.
And so I meant to ask with family first, and I jumped right to question number 2. You mentioned your family in that answer. So you want to give a brief overview of
well, that's that is a much longer story these days for me. Laura and I we're about to come up on our 31st wedding anniversary here in a couple of weeks. And we've been married that length of time. And I have 4 kids. Casey, my oldest son, lives out in Arizona with his wife, Nicole, and our 3 grandchildren, Wesley, who is 7, Margaret, who is 2, and Amelia, who is 1. My daughter, Julie, lives in Nashville with her husband, Kyle, and their 1-year-old son, James. So those are my 4 grandchildren. And then my son, Colin, is in Boston and is working for us as the digital pastor. If you didn't hear, Colin got engaged this weekend to a young woman named Kaylee Thomas, who we have been begging him to get engaged to for several months now. And so they're finally engaged, but please don't ask them a date for the wedding. We're not there yet. So, and then my youngest son, Lawson, just turned 20 a couple of weeks ago, and he's about to be a sophomore at Oklahoma City University. As I said, the family thing's a lot longer these days than how I got here.
That's awesome. I'm going to go off the run sheet and the questions that I sent you previously and ask a side question. So okay. Now you're a grandparent.
Yep.
Right. What has been the most surprising thing that you've found as being a grandparent as you've transitioned from just being a parent? I know it's been a while, but I'm curious.
Yeah. What's the most surprising thing about being a grandparent? Yeah. First of all, the most surprising thing is that my adult children don't love me enough so that I can see my grandchildren on a weekly, daily basis. So that may be the most surprising thing about it. No, it's been wonderful, and I'm just so thankful for technology because I do see my grandkids every week. We just do it all through FaceTime, and they're really great. I concur with what everybody says. If I had known grandchildren were this much fun, I would have had them first.
Awesome. Excellent. Wendy, now we turn to you now. Let's start with what was going to be question number 1, which is, your family. And we know you're a new mom. So the follow-up question will be kind of what you found to be most surprising to being a new parent.
Awesome. Yeah, so I am married to my husband, Michael. Our 10-year anniversary is in October. which I don't feel old enough to have been married for 10 years. So it's a little confusing. It's hard to wrap my head around, but 10 years coming up. And yeah, we just had our first daughter. She is 9 months old. I was putting her down. She's been sick today. I was putting her down right before this call, and she threw up all over me, and I didn't have time to change. And so I'm glad this is not in person, because I smell not great. It's not great. But you can't see it, but it doesn't, it's a whole thing. So yeah, man, the most surprising thing about motherhood, everybody told me kids are awesome and kids are fun. And I was like, great, because I don't know, when it's not yours, they're wonderful, but there's something different. And I'm just obsessed with her. Like, it's out of control. I'm just obsessed with her. She's so awesome. So yeah, I don't think I knew that my heart would like expand this way. And I love her so much.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure.
Yeah.
So how is it you found your way to Grace Avenue?
Yeah, I mean, long and winding road. Short story. We were living in Nashville before we moved here, and we moved here specifically for this job at Grace Avenue. My husband is a mix engineer and a producer, and I was doing like the artist songwriter thing in Nashville. We've been doing that before we've known each other. And I had been in ministry before, but had just kind of gotten burnt out on it. So I decided I wanted to get back into ministry, but it had to be a special kind of church. It wasn't just going to be any old church in North Texas that we wanted to be at. We wanted to be at a place that was progressive and affirming and welcoming and inclusive. And that's like a tall order to find. It's hard. And so, man, just through a bunch of God things, we got hooked up with Grace Avenue, and I met Billy and Laura. We all went out, I think, for Thai food for lunch one day, and met Joe Stoba, who was the pastor of Modern at the time. And it was just a match made in heaven. It all felt so right away. And we lived here like 6 weeks later. It was like, we met everybody. We were like, we're doing this, and we moved. So yeah,
That's
long story
awesome.
short.
When you said any church in North Texas, were you coming back to North Texas, or it was a destination that was like, hey, if I'm going to move anywhere, it's got to be to North Texas?
Yeah, we had been here for 5 years before Nashville. We're from Colorado. We're a hot mess. We're all over the place. From Colorado, moved to Dallas when we first got married, and like finished school here. And my husband went to school here because he had never gone straight out of high school. And so we kind of finished that as adults. Then did Nashville, then came back. It feels like home here. We're from Colorado, but something about this place, we just feel home. So this is kind of where we're putting in roots.
Awesome. So have you traveled as a parent yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you follow me on like Instagram or TikTok or any of that, you'll have seen stories. You'll have seen the adventures that we have gone on. A little bit of airplane travel. It's a literal nightmare, and I never want to do it again, even though I know we're going to have to. It is so hard. Maybe it gets easier as they get older. Maybe.
I don't know. We took Mallory on her first plane trip when I think she was 6 weeks old in first class, and everybody looked at us like we were nuts.
Yeah.
But she slept the whole time, so we were quite lucky.
Yeah,
So,
6 weeks old. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody shook their heads when I said, does it get easier? Everybody was like, no. Mm-mm. So that feels great.
Anybody nodding their head, no.
Love it.
So you mentioned this kind of what you're doing before, and then out in North Texas, et cetera. So thinking back through all that, and even going back further, right before you kind of became a career professional, what would be the craziest or most interesting job that you ever had?
Oh, craziest job. I mean, my first job was in a nursing home. I was like a nutritional aide. It's not a crazy job. It was like the opposite of a crazy job, but it was a great first little gig. And I would like blend up. We would make meals for the people who could still, eat normally. And then for the people who were on liquid diets, we would like blend things up, and it was tough, but met a lot of really cool people and heard cool stories and played a lot of cards. So it was a good first job when I was 16.
Were you doing music at that time or no?
I mean, just, hobby stuff. and like playing at church and stuff, but
not playing in the nursing home.
no, none of that. I mean, once or twice I would, but nothing official.
Gotcha, for sure.
Billy, how
What
about you?
Billy?
Crazy job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than ministry. It's not, it wasn't a crazy job, but Laura and I were program directors one year. Actually, it was the first year we got married in an encampment outside of Houston in what's called the Big Thicket, which, it was a great job. And it wasn't too unusual until one night, one of the maintenance guys called me and said, I need your help. And we had these series of lakes. One was a swimming lake that was naturally spring fed. And then there were other lakes. And an alligator had gotten into the swimming lake, and I had to go down with the maintenance guy, trap alligator, and move it to another lake. And that was quite an experience. I thought maybe being back in the local church would be better than wrestling alligators for the rest of my career. So we didn't do that a lot, but it's quite an adrenaline rush to think about dealing with a live alligator, and we did.
Yeah, can anybody else on this call raise their hand and say that they've trapped live alligators? Oh, yeah, Kristen, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot answer that.
How big was the alligator, Kristen?
Probably not as big as yours. We went out on a canoe because we thought we were smart people to go alligator hunting at night. And yeah. So this is when I was a camp counselor outside of Houston. Yeah.
This alligator was about 7 feet long, so it was fun.
Yeah, we'd catch them by the snout and the tail and flip them upside down so they didn't make noise.
Yeah, no thanks.
Lisa Hampshire has wrestled also alligators as well.
I have not wrestled alligators, but I did meet Billy and Laura that summer when they were working at Chain of Lakes in Conroe, Texas, when I took, with another woman, 37 middle school girls to camp, and Billy and Laura were running the camp at that time, and they were like, we want to come in and help you. And we're like, we've never had anybody help us here before, and we got this, and we got all our stuff done and our meals and all that. Well, let us do a service for you. And we're like, okay. So they did Sunday morning worship for us, and it was an exchange of Genesis 1, of God telling, do this, do that. And it was just amazing. And then I remember, fast forward 15 years, they used that same sermon one day at Grace Avenue. And it was like, I remember this. It was amazing. Wow.
And here you are together again.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Yeah. This isn't about me, but I've got nothing close to wrestling alligators or moving or transporting alligators in my past. Wendy, I'm not sure what you have planned for a little musical interlude, but I'm curious if it coincides with the question around what is something that the general congregation might be surprised to learn about you?
Yes. So I realized people who attend Moderns hear me sing live all the time. Good times. Love to sing live. But they probably haven't heard all of my recorded music. That's kind of what I've been doing since I was 16 or 17. I've been working in recorded music. I do sync music, which is like music for sync licenses to TV and film and commercials and stuff like that. I've also done like voiceover work. I also have my own pop music stuff that's very just like Katy Perry-esque. I do lullabies. I have all kinds of music out there online. So I wanted to show you guys some of that, if y'all are cool with it.
Yeah, awesome. Can you tell me what sync music is again? I'm sorry.
Yes, sync music, it's the long term is synchronization licenses. And so that's when you're syncing sound to video. So like whenever you hear, like if there's a Nike commercial and there's like a super cool song behind it, the Nike had to pay to use that song in their commercial. Same thing with like movies and TV, any music you hear in any of that, they have to pay for those songs. So when they can't afford like a Katy Perry song, which is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to license for, 10 seconds of it for a movie, they come to me, who's a little bit cheaper than Katy Perry. So I'm signed to a couple of different sync companies, and I do that. We still create sync music all the time. So
it's original work, or is it something like it's a song that we would know that then you do?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of both. For most of my like pop sync stuff, it's originals, and then I'll show you another one later that's all cover stuff, like awesome. Singing other people's songs. But the first song I'll show you is called Boss Lady. This one has been synced in all kinds of stuff, different commercials, and it's been on like a Korean soap opera that we've actually gotten like the most plays. I think like on Spotify, I have almost 500,000 plays now on this song because of that one show. So I think Kristen is gonna share her screen. And she's going to play it. And you don't have to play the whole thing. You can play like the verse and chorus or whatever.
All right, here we go. Come on. Here we go. Boss lady, tell him I'm a boss lady. Boss lady, tell him I'm a You're hiding up behind your Ray-Bans, dropping money, breaking hearts. You wanna kill it while you still can. With easy women, fast cars, but ladies, if you met a man this slick and he tryna play those tricks, don't you let him waste your time. You tell him I'm a boss. Ooh, 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 you tell him I'm a boss. Ooh, 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 you tell him that it's very nice to meet ya. Bless your little sweetheart, you can never handle me. Listen, I'ma try to say it nicely. I'm a little
Makes me just want to get up and dance. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Makes me just want to
If you
get up
want
and
to see
dance. I'm
that.
sorry.
That's what we're going for. So yeah, that one's called Boss Lady. That's one of the real poppy fun ones. So yeah.
I'm
And
trying
you
to
says,
stop. Can y'all still hear it?
yep.
There we go.
And you say you got majority of your views or listens because of the soap opera was where?
Yeah, it was like a Korean, it's a Korean soap opera that song got licensed in like one of their big montages. It's like of the heroine character is like getting ready for some sort of like fight. So yeah, and it's big on YouTube, this Korean soap opera. It's gotten us tons of plays. So you
That
never
is
know where it's
awesome.
gonna come from. Yeah.
Was it translated or was it in English?
In English.
Okay.
So I don't know, because the characters speak in Korean and then the song is in English.
That's
They made it
awesome.
work. Yeah.
Is there a backstory to Boss Lady and Billy? Should you be worried?
I'm taking over. I'm coming for you, Billy. No,
I have quite a few boss ladies in my life, so I'm not bothered by that at all.
Yeah, that was one of the first songs that I released when we moved to Nashville. And it was like my coming out, I'm here, Nashville, and like, I'm going to show you who's boss. And then I didn't. It was really hard. Nashville was terrible, but I still felt like a boss lady going in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So kind of building on this, like, we've chatted before. I had no idea that you had that, and even the stuff I knew was not that. So that was interesting to get to know that. So thanks for sharing. So in that same vein, Billy, is there something that you think the congregation would be surprised or interested to learn about you, even stepping away from your alligator wrangling?
Cool. Kristen, can you let me show my screen? We're going to see if the host will let me show my screen here. Because in order to really do this, I need to show you a picture. Okay, so let's see if this is going to let me do this. All right, hang on a second. Let me back up here. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. Okay, so hang on. when I was in high school,
Ow.
everybody see that?
Yes.
I actually, one thing the congregation doesn't know about me is that I have expertise in artillery. I know how to fire a replica Civil War cannon. And so therefore, if you have some kind of antique artillery that you need to know how to fire, I can probably do that. This was a group of us that was called the Cannoneers at my high school. And we actually, the summer before our senior year, took this cannon. We would tour battlefields of the South. I fired the cannon at Vicksburg Battlefield, and I fired the cannon at Stone Mountain, Georgia, which was pretty cool. And then we came back and we would have it at football games, and we would fire it every time our team scored. The problem was our football team only won 2 games that year. We didn't fire the cannon very much, just at the beginning of the game and at the end of the game. But I don't know if you can tell, but I am second from the left in this picture, standing up. I'm not second from the right. That's my buddy, Chris Sudduth. Anyway, I know how to do this. So the funny thing is, we of course never fired projectiles, but you still have to have something inside the cannon in order to make it work. And so we used to stuff it with these really tightly rolled newspaper things that you're able to put in. And actually, I got to thinking about it. So before there were confetti cannons, this is what we did. So when we fired it, there'd be this large burst of paper that would come out from the cannon. So as I listened to Wendy sing Boss Lady a moment ago, I thought maybe, we could maybe do that in church someday. And then we had this, and I'll fire a confetti cannon at the end of the song, and it'll be very impressive. But if you have a piece of antique artillery and you do not know how to fire it, call me and I'll see if I can help you.
Excellent. So do they still fire that cannon today?
No, about 5, I don't know, it was about 5 to 10 years after we left, the wonderful University Interscholastic League said that we couldn't do those things anymore. So we were one of just a handful of schools around the state that actually had such a thing, some type of firing thing, and they outlawed it and said, no, we're not gonna do that anymore, it's too dangerous.
Yeah,
So,
a little liability there.
the original, it's kind of the original, you'll shoot your eye out sort of thing, only bigger. But anyway, I know how to fire a cannon. There you go.
Excellent. So at football games, so let's talk sports for a second. Sports
Okay.
fan, yay or nay?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sort of a hometown guy. I mean, we've lived in the Dallas area for a long time, so I love all the Dallas teams: Cowboys, Rangers, Mavericks, Stars, and kind of go back and forth in terms of my love for them. But I mean, my love for the Cowboys goes way back. I first started following the Cowboys when we moved to Tyler in 1968. On my 10th birthday, we saw the Cowboys play the Colts in the Cotton Bowl, and Johnny Unitas was quarterback for the Colts at the time. So yeah, I've lived through all the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything else. But I love the local sports teams, and because I didn't go to a college with a large athletic program, I tend to root for the colleges that my children went to. But of course, they've all gone to small schools, except for Julie, who went to TCU. So probably the college team I keep up with a good bit is TCU. And then I have a sibling brother who went to A&M, and so I watch A&M a good bit.
Awesome. So at the end of COVID, we were like in this interesting place, right? Or fall of last year, when you had like basketball going on at the same time as football, at the same time as the NHL, right? And the Rangers were long gone by that point, right? But I think even baseball was playing, right? So it was like this really weird kind of intersection of all the sports happening simultaneously. So let's say that COVID happened before the world of DVRs, right? And you couldn't record all of those, and you had to choose one, and your 4 teams from the Dallas area were playing simultaneously. Which one would you choose?
Man. Well, I mean, part of that is, okay, I mean, it's got all things being equal, right? Because it's one thing to be watching a playoff game. It's another thing to be watching the 3rd game of the regular season. So,
agreed.
I mean, all things being equal, I probably have to watch the Cowboys, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it hurts to say that sometimes.
Yeah, I think a lot
I
of
really
folks
was
on
not a
this-
big hockey fan. My two younger sons got me really interested in hockey. And I will tell you, there have been a lot of times recently when it came down between watching a Mavericks game and a Stars game. I was watching the Stars.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of folks on this call probably feel your pain on the Cowboys front. And hopefully things will turn. And now that Jimmy's going to be in the Hall of Honor or the Ring of Honor, you know, maybe the outlook is bright. We'll see. What about you, Wendy? Sports?
Yes, I sports so hard. You have no idea. Now I want to participate in culture. I've never been a huge sports person. I played volleyball all through high school. So Olympic volleyball is like, I mean, chef's kiss. I love it so much. We've recorded every bit of Olympic volleyball. The rest of it, I really want to like it so much. I don't know. My husband loves basketball. So we spend a lot of nights where he watches a basketball game and I look at my phone. So does that count?
So you are both watching together.
We are in the room on the same couch, sort of pointed in the same direction. So I like a playoff game. Like a basketball playoff game is super fun. But other than that, I try to act enthused.
So during the Olympics, indoor volleyball or beach volleyball?
Any of it. I'll take
Doesn't
any of
matter,
it.
either one.
Oh, it's all so fun. I love it.
Gotcha.
And women's beach and indoor, they both won gold. So
Yeah,
kind of a big deal.
they killed it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Beach or mountains, switching topics, right? That's often coming out of summer, right? Vacations are ending, right? But as things opening up, hopefully, if you had to vacation, would it be to the mountains or to the beach, Wendy? Do you have
I
a
mean,
favorite?
I grew up in the mountains. My dad was Air Force, so we were kind of all over, but we landed in Colorado for my like middle school, high school years. So I'm over it. Mountains are fine. For me, it's beach. There's something just so romantic about the ocean to me. I don't like getting in it. I'm terrified of the ocean, but I like to be on the sand part. But you touch the water and I'm like, I mean, death awaits. It's terrifying in there. But I love the sand. So beach.
Yeah, their world, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Do you have a beach destination that's on your bucket list?
Oh, we would love to go to like the Maldives and do one of the like, cabana over the ocean. But the travel, it's like a 24-hour travel hunk to get there. So maybe that's a someday thing.
Yeah, now that you're traveling with 3, that might be a good trip.
Oh my gosh. It sounds like a living nightmare. So yeah.
What about you, Billy?
Yeah, no, I'm the other way around. I'm mountains. If I've got a chance, I go to the mountains. I don't hate the beach. I just think after a day or so, the beach is still the beach, and it's still the same thing at the end of the day. You go back home and you got all this sand and all this different stuff. And I mean, the thing I love about the mountains is in the mountains, the air is thin, but it's fresh. And there are vistas and views in the mountains that you just cannot get anywhere else. The other thing I've learned in my life in more recent years is that, not all mountains are the same. The Rocky Mountains of Colorado, which I love, are different than the Rocky Mountains of Western Canada, which are beautiful as well. And so, anywhere in the world where I could go and be in the mountain environment, I would prefer to do that. And like I say, if you said to me, well, all you got's the beach, then sure, that's fine. But I'm much more mountains than I am beach.
Yeah, you would choose a beach vacation versus no vacation at all.
That's true. That is very true. Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So it takes us to like the midway point, roughly, Wendy. I was hoping maybe we could like have another kind of musical interlude.
Let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna do another song. So I'm gonna play you one of my lullabies. So I created a lullaby artist, and it's called Sleep My Darling. So this was our pregnancy announcement when I found out I was pregnant with Charlie, our daughter. We wanted to come up with a pregnancy announcement that was like very us and musical and cool. So we decided to make an album of all of our favorite 90s songs from our childhood, but do them as lullabies. And the album is called When 90s Kids Have Kids. So I started making these. The artist is Sleep My Darling, and the album is called When 90s Kids Have Kids. I released this album and it was fun as a pregnancy announcement, good times. And then a few months later, this influencer on Instagram posted about it. And like overnight, I got like 6,000 Instagram followers and the plays shot up on Spotify so high that I actually charted on Billboard that week, which was so cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah, like dream come true. That's something that you just always think, like, oh, it'd be cool to chart on Billboard, but you never think is actually going to happen. So, yeah, this is one of those songs. It's lullabies to put your baby to sleep of your favorite childhood songs turn lullaby. So this one is Closing Time by the Semisonics. Y'all probably know it. All right, rock and roll, Kristen.
I'm working on it.
As she's pulling that up, maybe
I hear about your high school trophies. Oh, please, I'm the trophy. I'll be here shaking what my mama gave me while all your daddy gave you was those issues. Baby boy, you must be crazy. So tell me, have you ever met a boss? Have you ever?
that's going to keep my baby up at night.
Yeah, not that.
Not that. It's not doing the right one. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Closing time. Open all the doors and let you out into the world. Closing time. Turn all of the lights on over every boy and every girl. Closing time. One last call for alcohol, so finish your whiskey or beer. Closing time.
What a great version. Love that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Kristen, could you post a link to that in the chat? That way, if other folks on the
Absolutely.
call wanted to kind of access that on Spotify, they could
Absolutely. I'll
just
do
click
the
there.
boss lady also. So
Good
Excellent.
call.
And if we go to that link for Closing Time, would we have access to the other songs off that album also?
Yeah, it should come up
Close
just
by.
on Spotify, or whatever listening platform you use. If you use like Apple Music or Pandora or Prime or whatever, if you just look for Sleep My Darling, that's the artist name that I use for all my lullaby stuff, Sleep My Darling. And then all my pop stuff, Boss Lady is Wendy Child. And again, on any listening platform that you use.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
So you made it. So you made it to the Billboard chart, and all you had to do was have a baby.
All I had to, I mean, Michael and I have joked about that so much. I have tried so hard in my pop music, and it's just, I mean, it's been hitting a brick wall sometimes. And then some random influencer posts about a lullaby that I made of a semisonic song, and that's the thing that does it. All you got to do is have a kid.
How has your musical inspiration, or has it changed since you had a child? Right,
Yeah, good question. I mean, probably not a ton. I do look at music slightly more practically now. I used to just be so like, just in my feelings and very like navel gazy and very just like, oh, what is my art trying to do? And now I'm like, listen, is this going to put a baby to sleep, or is this going to make me some money? Because if not, I don't have time for it. So for at least those things, I do also write like worship music, and that's still, artsy. But yeah, I just don't have time for it anymore.
That's cool. So you had to make some decisions on which songs you're going to include as lullabies. So do you have a particular favorite band? And I'll extend that to authors too, but since we're talking about music, do you have a favorite band?
That's impossible. It's truly impossible. But
They're not going to all
currently-
play at the same time. I won't force you to choose.
It's so hard. I do love me some Coldplay. I mean, Coldplay's like library over the couple of decades they've been making music is just, it's unreal. And their new stuff is like, it's so good. So probably Coldplay.
Excellent. Billy, what about yourself? Do you have a favorite band or author that you'd want to share as we kind of move into like what inspires you?
Well, I mean, those are two different questions. I mean, I love music, but I'm obviously not as deeply immersed in music all the time. I listen a lot to podcasts and listen a lot to books, things like that. Musically, there's a lot of solo artists that just came out of my past. I love James Taylor. I love Simon and Garfunkel. I love Jim Croce. Some of you don't know who Jim Croce is. You need to look him up.
Don't spit into the wind.
From an author standpoint, outside of religious authors, there's lots of religious authors I could go into, but I don't think that's why we're really here. I probably the author I resonate with every time he comes out with something new, I want to pick it up, is a guy by the name of Mitch Albom. And I don't know if you've ever read Tuesdays with Morrie. And then eventually he wrote a book called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. But he's done so many other just little books. They're just little novels, fiction. And Mitch Albom was a sports writer from Detroit, but he's a wonderful fiction writer. And he's got a really interesting story about what he's doing now with children who are down in Haiti at an orphanage that he sponsors. And he's just a really great guy. One of his best books is called The Timekeeper, and has this very interesting sort of novel about sort of how we came to understand time. And it's really beautiful. And then one of the other ones, if you really like music, Mitch Albom wrote a great book that's kind of a Forrest Gump type book called The Magic Strings of Frankie Presto. And it's good stuff. So I would say Mitch Albom is probably the person I resonate with from when I'm reading for relaxation and enjoyment.
Gotcha. So are one of those two books, would you describe as the book that you've recommended or given as a gift most frequently?
No, probably the book I've given the most is more of a spiritual book. In fact, we've got it back on the resource list again this fall. It's a book written by Henry Nouwen, and the book's called Life Signs. And I don't know. When you read, if you ever want to know more about, where we came through some of the metaphor stuff for Grace Avenue, if you read Life Signs, you'll understand. I mean, he's got some of the most beautiful language I've ever seen about home and why the concept of home is important to us.
Yeah, interesting.
That's Henry Nouwen, Nouwen, Henry Nouwen, Life Signs.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, that's interesting. So Wendy, in that kind of same vein, right? You mentioned Coldplay is like your favorite artist, but if you think about kind of a book or album that you've recommended or gifted the most, does one come to mind for you?
Yeah. I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of audiobooks. I listen to so many audiobooks that sometimes I'm like afraid I don't know how to read anymore. Sometimes I'm like, could I sit down and read a book? Like it's my brain's broken a little bit. But I'm kind of if you know me well, I'm kind of like a hippy dippy. I'm into woo-woo stuff. So I love like Eckhart Tolle. Some of those a little bit more like woo-woo spiritual teachers. I'm still reading it because it's a big book, but I've recommended it to a million of my friends. It's a book called Women Who Run with the Wolves. And again, it's pretty woo-woo. It kind of talks you through like a female archetype and the female heroine, and just, different facets of that woman living into her womanhood. So, I mean, as I'm hearing myself talk, I'm like, you're such a hippie. But so I'm real into that stuff. So Women Who Run with the Wolves is one of my favorites.
Cool. Awesome.
And I'm actually reading that one, like words on a page, a physical book. Like
But-
I'm 1,000 years old. It's crazy.
Or you can make notes on it with a regular pen.
I use a highlighter. Again, who am I? It's crazy.
That's also how many
Wendy.
times have you read it? Also, how many
Wendy.
times have you read it?
What was that? Oh,
I was going to ask if you could define what woo woo is.
you know, very like connecting to Mother Earth and like crystals and yeah, that kind of woo spirituality. Yeah.
So let's flip that completely the other direction and not spiritual, but would be that guilty pleasure of a movie. Like it's late at night, or it could be in the middle of the day and you're flipping through the channels. For those of us that still have cable, right? And you find yourself on, you know, TNT or USA, and this movie is all on, and it doesn't matter where you are in the movie, you absolutely stop down and you're like, yep, I've got to watch it for 15 minutes. And then the next thing you know, you watched it all the way to the end. Do you have one of those?
Me first.
Yeah, you.
Oh,
Sure,
okay.
that's fine. If you're not
Sorry.
really itching to go.
Okay. I love like the whole genre of like Wedding Crashers, like Super Bad, those kinds of movies, like the Vince Vaughn world of movies. I love. So if Wedding Crashers is on, like what choice do you have? You have to watch that movie. It's gonna happen.
Watch that over and over now before kids can repeat what they hear.
Yes, so true. That one's not necessarily a clean option, but yeah.
That's funny. Good stuff. What about you, Billy?
So if we're talking movies, anything that sort of falls in again into the genre of sports movies, which never won any Academy Awards, but you know, if it's coming on, I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna stay through it. Field of Dreams, Remember the Titans, Hoosiers, Miracle, Invincible. I mean, I can just continue the list to go on and on and on. You get me a story about an athlete and you know, The Blind Side, any of those kinds of stories just sort of suck me in, and I'm there, and love any kind of sports movie where there is opportunity for heroics.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, those are easy to get sucked into for sure. I'm gonna go
I'd
back
like
to
change my answer because yours was very inspirational, Billy.
Oh.
I'm like Wedding Crashers. Whoops.
Okay, so here's the other one I would tell you, and it doesn't come on TV very much, but if me or my family were to see this on TV and it came on, we would all stop everything we were doing and we would sit down and watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
there we go. Excellent. Yeah, we got a few of those that are not more along your lines, Wendy, but people don't want to hear what I'm watching. So, Billy, let me go back for a second on the books. Thanks for kind of the comments on what you recommended or find inspirational. One of the questions we have from the audience, and we already know this from Wendy, is what are you reading right now? And I don't think that was one of the three that you mentioned. That's for you, Billy. Yep.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. I have very recently gotten into Malcolm Gladwell, and I don't, you know, I'm a little late to the Malcolm Gladwell party, but I'm currently reading a book called What the Dog Saw. And many of you have probably read The Tipping Point or Blink or some of those other things. But I just love the way he goes into a subject and sort of tears it apart and begins to and look at it from a very different perspective. And What the Dog Saw is a series of essays regarding that. Prior to that, I had just read when he did Talking to Strangers, which is a really important book to read right now in terms of how we are dealing with lots of issues, particularly as it relates to race. But then after that, he's written this really short book that he's done some interesting thing with in the audio form. And the book is called The Bomber Mafia. And it's all about how just prior to World War II, there were a group of Americans who decided that we could start to win wars through precision bombing. And it's fascinating. I mean, what we went through and the twists and the turns, and really tells a story about two guys that became pretty famous within the Air Force ranks One was a guy named Haywood Hansel in World War II, and another guy by the name of Curtis LeMay, who eventually got a lot more notoriety as he became part of the Air Force and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But The Bomber Mafia, I can't recommend it enough. It's a great book if you like that kind of stuff. But I'm into Malcolm Gladwell right now.
Yeah, excellent. Talking to Strangers, did you read that one or did you listen to the audio version? Because the audio version was pretty interesting too.
I listened to the audio version.
Yeah, cool. We're getting close to the end here, and maybe do a little musical interlude here, and then we'll wrap up with some rapid fire questions and another question from the audience. And as we're listening to the music, the question from the audience is, I believe, where do you see Grace Avenue in 10 years? So I know this is about getting to know you personally, but kind of what your personal view is of that. So with that, give that some thought, and we'll turn it over to the music side.
Okay, cool. So one more thing to show you. And this one, I thought of it today and I was like, maybe people will get a kick out of this. So I sang and I did the voiceover for the TV show Miraculous Ladybug. If you have kids, you maybe have seen, like young kiddos, you may have seen this. I have friends text me all the time. They're like, we just watched this show and like, is that you? Because my voice, I'm voice acting, so I play a character, and so it doesn't quite sound like me. But this is the theme song on YouTube, I think, that Kristen's gonna pull up. So here's this.
And the name of the show again is?
It's called Miraculous Ladybug.
Gotcha.
I'm Marinette, just a normal girl with a normal life. But there's something about me that no one knows yet. 'Cause I have. But there's something about me that no one knows yet. It keeps me sharp and on the run. When evil comes, I find a way to use my force and save the day. Life's got me spinning round. My feet are off the ground. And when the sun goes down, you better hang around. It's Ladybug, jumping above the power. So that's that.
My dog is incredibly impressed right now.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I did that. It was a contract studio session. So I got paid like one time to come in and cut a vocal. And then, yeah, the show has like blown up. It has like gajillions of views. I think that video has like 17 million views on YouTube. And I got paid like one little contract fee the day I did it. You never know I probably should have looked more into that contract before I signed it, but what are you going to do?
That is very cool. When you said Incredible Ladybug, is not what I was envisioning at all. I was thinking.
Yeah, it's like a superhero. It's a Nickelodeon like superhero show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still running now, sounds like.
It is. They have new episodes all the time. Yep.
Oh, very cool. Awesome. Well, as we get close to the end here, let's rattle off a few rapid fire questions and start with favorite meal. And you can kind of blurt them out between the two of you rather than me calling it out. So
Cook me up some fried shrimp. I'm there.
I don't care about the meal. I want dessert and I want tiramisu.
I'm with you on both of those fronts,
Yes.
tiramisu in particular. On your nightstand, if somebody walked into your bedroom, what would they find?
Several pairs of glasses, because they seem to kind of get knocked. I don't mean like drinking glasses. I mean like these, which always seem to get lost somewhere. Reading glasses is probably what's most on my nightstand. But since I listen to a lot of books and everything else is kind of on Kindle or iPad, I don't really have physical books sitting on my nightstand.
Yeah, I've got like Apple Watch charger and glasses because I wear glasses when I don't have contacts, and a baby monitor.
You would also find the remote controls on my side of the bed. For the TV in the bedroom, I have the remote control. Very important.
To be very clear.
Yeah.
What would be something that people often get wrong about you?
People think I remember everybody's name. I don't. I try to do whatever I can with that. I try to do the best I can. I got to tell you though, one of my biggest allies and helps in that regard is on this call. Kristen Lane knows as many names as I do. And, it's often that I will sidle up beside her during a given day and say, what's that person's name again? And she always has the answer. So I don't remember as many names as people think I do.
Let's see. Mine would, I don't know. Maybe that I'm an extrovert. I'm not an extrovert. I'm definitely introverted. I can turn it on. I can be extroverted, but at the end of the day, like I got to peace out. I need some me time.
Yeah. Favorite show that you binge watched during the pandemic?
Ted Lasso.
So good.
And I'm watching Ted Lasso over and over again. I'm in a discussion group with some other clergy friends, and one of my buddies has watched Ted Lasso both in English and in Spanish.
All right.
I love Ted Lasso.
Football is life.
Yes.
So ours, we started this right at the beginning of the pandemic. We have watched I think there's 15 seasons of ER. Guys, it's so good. It holds up. Watch it. It's so good. It's like, it reminds you humanity is good and you follow all these characters. It's amazing. So ER, check it out. 15 seasons for your binging pleasure.
It's really sad when you were around to
the
watch
beginning
it
of
the original time it came out.
At the beginning of the pandemic, Laura and I we also binge watched The West Wing. Not really for the political. I just like the way, the pace of it. And I keep thinking that's the way I wish, an office environment would work. That all I had to do was walk around and say, what's next?
Very Leo.
Excellent. Two more questions. First one is from the audience. Kind of what do you see as the vision for Grace Avenue 10 years from now? Kind of what's the picture you have in your head?
Well, go on, Wendy.
And then the second question, I'll let you choose either one of these to answer first. And the last question would be, what is the thing that you're deeply grateful for right now?
Okay, I'll go first on the where I see us in 10 years. So for me, writing progressive Christian music, like progressive corporate worship music, is really important. Like writing songs with lyrics that match our theology and what we believe about humans and believe about God. And so that's something that I have been doing for a long time and want to keep ramping up. And I see Grace Avenue kind of being a hub that resources other progressive churches with that kind of corporate music, because it's really hard to find out there these days. So that's one of my dreams.
Wow. So 10 years, I keep seeing that. I feel like that Grace Avenue, we've always been kind of involved with Grace Avenue in terms of location. We've always said Grace Avenue is not a location, but a way of life. I think what that means in 10 years is Grace Avenue is going to be in many locations. It's going to be heavily online, because I think that's one of the places we're going. But I also think around the area, you're going to find parts of Grace Avenue or satellites of Grace Avenue, ministries of Grace Avenue. It may not actually be standalone churches as much as it may just be ministries and community centers and things that will be coming out of the Grace Avenue system. And that'll be exciting. I don't have any plans before now and then, but if we're really talking 10 years from now, the powers that be in the United Methodist Church will force me to retire. So I will be at mandatory retirement age in 10 years. So that's
enjoying those grandbabies even more.
Yeah.
Those are probably grandchildren at that point, not grandbabies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So wrapping up with something you're deeply grateful for now.
I'll go first. I'm really grateful for my husband. Almost 10 years now with him married, and seeing him become a dad has been like, oh my gosh, it's the coolest thing in the world. He is a way better dad than I even thought he would be. And I thought he'd be amazing. Like, he has taken to it so well. And I just feel like the luckiest person in the world that I get to have a partner in him being a parent. So love him.
That's awesome.
I'm really grateful right now for people who have continued and have chosen now to be engaged and continue to be committed to the church as we've moved beyond the pandemic. I think one of the things that's happened on the other side of the pandemic is that people have come to the realization, if they haven't always, that church is about a choice, and it's not just about convenience. I think people that are involved in church today have to make a very conscious choice to be involved in church, because there are so many other things that are out there, and a lot of them are good things. I don't want to say that they're not. It's not like it's the church is good and everything else is bad. There are so many other choices, though, that people have in the world today. And to see people like yourselves who are making a conscious choice to be engaged in the work of Christ through the church is something that I just am more and more grateful for each and every day, because I just don't take that for granted, that people just wake up on a given day or a given Sunday and say, oh yeah, church today. We don't live in that world anymore. So people that are making that choice, I am extremely grateful for them.
Great. Well, let me offer thanks from everybody that's on the call this evening. We're grateful that you were willing to get online and have this kind of virtual narthex discussion and get to know you at a different level outside of behind the pulpit or behind a mic, right? So thank you both for participating. Thanks for working through it with our first time through this. Appreciate your candor and your honesty in terms of how you answered. At least we believe that to be the case anyway. Maybe you lied. I suspect not. But thank you so much for doing that. Thank all of you for joining this evening and giving us the opportunity to share this with you. Look forward to the next time we get together for open mic, which will be on the 13th of September. And we look forward to having Courtney and Bill participate that evening. And if you have feedback between now and then on how we could have done this a little bit better, don't hesitate to reach out and send us a note. So again, thank you all very much. I hope you all have a great evening.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you moderating. Thanks, Stephanie.
Bye.
Thanks, Kristen. Bye, everybody. Good to see you. All right. Bye-bye.